There are many ways of using compression. Of course, you can control too much dynamics, you can beef up your tone, you can get more sustain, and you can even use it as a boost pedal. Let's take a scenario we've all been in, I guess, where you want a clean, round, warm tone, but your drummer goes into beast mode. And then you really have to hit hard, and maybe you're not getting that tone you want. So in situations like that, a compression pedal can really be a lifesaver. And this is the Empress Compressor mkII. This is absolutely one of my favorite compression pedals, and the reason it is very close to what I'm using in the studio every day. I think it was in 1966 that Bill Putnam invented that FET compressor, Universal Audio 1176, super popular, and it's used in so many recordings. You can hear it on vocals, guitar, and a lot of other instruments all the time. And the reason was, before in the 60s, you only had tube compression, and the FET compression was very clean and quick. So the input gain, of course, if that is set very low, you will have no compression at all. Here is my input signal, and this is how much compression there is. And the output signal, this can get super loud. You have the attack time that goes from all the way down to 50 microseconds up to 50 milliseconds. And the release is going from 50 milliseconds and all the way up to 1 second. There are really no this is the perfect settings for attack and release, because there's so many factors, and compression is one of those things that you just have to try to find the best settings for you. If you want to cut every transient in the beginning when you're having this, then you have to have it really quick, but I like to use it pretty quick so it takes off, because guitar, most of the volume comes really quickly. So if you take it too slow, you're only controlling the kind of tail of your tone, but sometimes that is exactly what you want. One really great thing about this pedal is that you have a mix control that's called parallel compression. Now it's 100% wet, meaning everything is compressed, but I can bring back some of my original uncompressed signal. And I really like this way of using a compression. Especially when you have a really quick attack, maybe you need to bring back some of your treble. So this compressor has a tilt tone knob. That meaning the center is 500 Hertz, and if you turn it up, you're adding treble and cutting the bass. And if you turn it back, you're reducing the treble and adding more bass. You also have a ratio that goes from 2, and that's very subtle. If you have 2 dB going over the threshold, it would reduce it by 1 dB. And of course 4, meaning if it's 4 dB over, you only get 1 dB out. And here it will reduce 10 dB down to 1 dB, and now we're getting close to a limiter. So we're almost choking the tone, especially if we crank up the input signal. And you can add some treble. is much compression, because you see this is how many dB it's reduced. But you can also hear that I'm getting more sustain. So if I'm playing very soft, or when I'm hitting the strings harder, of course it's not as much as dynamics if I'm. But now I can bring back. Okay, so let's say 60% compressed sound. Now I can have a little bit of best from both worlds. I think the tone is getting a little bit more beefy. And a little bit more sustain. So let's now try a setting for playing chords. Now we can almost hear that it's a kind of an auto swell. I'm using the compression to get a long sustain, and you get it almost a kind of a blooming chords. So if you want to sustain but you don't want that blooming, so let's go all the way up to 1 second release time. So to me, it's really good to have a compressor on my board. I'm not maybe using it all the time. That really depends on what I'm playing and the amp I'm playing. But there have been so many situations I've been on a stage, especially playing at large venues, like with a big band. You have to remember that like saxophone can get really loud and they can kind of always push it harder. So when everyone is starting to play really loud, the only option as a guitarist is to turn on the distortion or lead tone. So often when you can't cut through, the sound engineer will boost the treble, and maybe that's not the sound that you want. So having a compressor pedal at your feet will be really good to hit that extra fifth gear so you can really cut through in the band without losing your tone. And I would like to know if you're using a compressor pedal, what kind is it and how do you use it? Thank you so much for watching.